Hi, Tim. How are you?
Fine, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I will start by asking you, how did you become an entrepreneur and how did that change your life?
Okay, I think it started when I was quite young because I had a skill with computers. So I was in my neighborhood fixing people's computers, and they kept breaking quite a lot, and nobody knew what to do with them. And so then at one point, my dad said, "Hey, you can maybe charge some money for that as well." And that's what happened. And then suddenly started making a bit of money, and I was like, "Wait a second, we can do this." And then I started getting some people on board, and it sort of rolled from there. And the first time where it became a bit more serious was when I was 16. I was living in Malta at the time, and I started a small software company. I recruited my entire class, and I said, "You're doing marketing. I have no idea what that means. You're doing finance. I have no idea what that means." And I was doing programming and all sorts of stuff, and I was not delegating and making 1,000 mistakes. But in the end, after about 2 years of doing that, we ended up winning a best product of the year, all sorts of prizes. We were in front of the prime minister and with 3,000 people in the hall, and I was doing a presentation to a lot. It was a lot of fun, and I think that's when I realized that, okay, I can do this. I'm good at what I do, so I just want to keep on doing it. And I think it's the reason why I'm doing it is that there's many ways you can change the world. I do have that naive belief. Unfortunately, I think people have to have it somewhere, otherwise nothing's going to change. And I just thought, look, all of these massive companies out there which have a lot of cash, like Apple or Google or whatever, and they're not doing anything with it. It's all sitting on bank accounts. Imagine if you had that kind of money. What good could you do with it in the end? So for me, it's just one of the ways to fulfill a larger ambition. It might be a naive one, but...
What happened to that company?
We did very well, and then we decided to sell off the software, and then everybody went to university. So we could decide either to continue with it or to go to university and have a good life. And yeah, I chose for education, as did my colleagues. Yeah, it's a great choice.
How did you come up with the idea for Jungle.ai?
I was running another company in the Netherlands. We were doing a pretty cool thing with distributed systems. So we were analyzing sports broadcasts, like 70 or 80 of them at the same time in real time, recognizing when brands were present in the sports broadcast. So this is how they determine where to place the advertisements in sports. So you can buy like a lot of advertisement for a football game, but then the game goes where it goes, so they have to derive statistics of how much exposure was there actually for the brand and which corners of the football field had the most exposure and so on. So they do this to calculate return on investment. And we built something that did that automatically, so it recognized the brand content. And I'd spent 6 months on building this algorithm to detect that. I read a couple of papers, and this was early 2014, about AI and what sort of the developments and the breakthroughs were about that. And all of a sudden, we did what we did in 6 months within a week and delivered significantly better results. And I just thought back and I thought, well, I've had relationship trouble, I've had a lot of nightmares and sleepless nights and trying to make that extra little bit better. And by just rethinking the whole thing, instead of you programming all the rules, you make it learn the rules from your content. That's when it sort of clicked for me. This is going to be insanely big. This is going to take over. This is the biggest thing I've ever witnessed in computer science, and I loved programming. But this just outdid everything. And then from that moment on, I thought, okay, we need to switch everything that we're doing. And I've upset a lot of people because a lot of people were still on the old track. I was running another thing, a bar at the time, with a couple of good friends, and also got to spend less time on that. But I found really good people as quickly as I could, and we just started researching. And then at one point we did something. I set a goal, like if we can achieve this, then it means that we can do something. And we achieved it. And then we went to San Francisco, and then we went to a big conference where all the best were. And then we thought, okay, let's see where we are. And it turned out we're actually ahead of a lot of people and behind on some people on some matters, but good enough to really set up a company around this. And back at the time, it had a really bad name. I won't say it. And that grew into Jungle, and since then it's gone skyrocketed.
Why Jungle and why energy?
And well, we do a lot of things outside of energy as well. So we work on industry, factories. We work on transportation system. We have all sorts of clients in different areas. The reason why Jungle, so we thought a long time about this name, and for us, always when working on these sort of problems, it felt as if we were standing in front of a jungle, right? You were standing in something immense and magnificent, really scary but full of life. You could see a bit of light in the distance or a bit of darkness, and you were scared before you go in there. But you know you need to go in there to find that certain special tree or a bit of medicine or the temple or whatever. And it always felt like you need to go in there. Everything's connected and alive, and it's a beautiful environment. But it's also dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. It can waste a lot of time, or worse. And so we thought, that's it. That's why it's Jungle. That's what it's got to be called. And it made so much sense when we found out the name. I remember we were in a restaurant when we figured it out, and I just jumped up and started jumping and shouting, oh, we can do this, we can do this. We program in Python. We use algorithms that resemble trees. We can call our office the canopy. And it just kept going on for hours. It was just fantastic getting that name. And then we were like, okay, nobody's going to understand this. But then people told us, yes, but it's genius. All of the companies that are doing this are called XX Labs or Semiotic or Sci-Far or some scary name which immediately prompts a vision of red-eyed robots. But we just wanted to be like accessible, gentle, and also be a bit honest to ourselves. Like, look, we also learned, we wanted to be this guide through the jungle. So we went to a meetup. Entire financial sector in the Netherlands. All the data scientists came to the meetup, and then we had this 10 minutes where people could announce their own company. So we jumped up on stage, and I made up some bullshit speech about having the machete of knowledge and going through the jungle and finding the, and everyone was like, yeah, that's awesome. So then we know, okay, it's jungle. So
it may sound difficult for people to understand. People who will watch this, what you exactly do. So explain it to me like I was a 5-year-old girl.
Okay. So imagine being able to look into the future, right? That sounds ridiculous. Everybody, it's like alchemy. You can turn steel into gold or something like that. But actually, a lot of the things that are happening, let's say in a factory, for example, they are pretty routinous. Like, there's things that happen for a reason, and everything is measured. Because without measuring it, nothing can be controlled. So you can start seeing from just looking at the information when something is going to go a bit different than what it usually does. And because you can see all of those little patterns, you can sort of start to predict what happens in the future. And this is exactly what we do. So we look at all the information, but we don't program anything against it. We give it to this big collection of machines that start figuring out all of the interconnected patterns and relations in there to be able to see whether you can pick up on something that will start happening in the future. And the funny thing is that we couldn't believe that this was possible either until we worked on a case in September 2016, whereby we got given the entire data set of all the moments of track switches on a Dutch rail. So it's when one train switches from one track to another. And these are simple machines, like actuators. And within 2 weeks, we used all the skills that we had, and we went from knowing nothing to being able to predict when these things break 2 weeks ahead of time with an insane amount of accuracy, like very, very accurately. And we knew that the benchmark at the time was another team that had worked on it for a year, and they only got 76% accuracy or something. Not useful in any case. But we knew that basically what we had made in 2 weeks from zero knowledge would save a possible industry hundreds of millions a year. Just because instead of paying a fine or a train derailing or a big economic area being out of transport, you could just send 2 guys in a van and a replacement switch 2 weeks ahead of time and fix it. So then we knew being able to look a bit into the future is useful for a lot of companies, right? So if you know what a house price is going to be before you sell it, or if you know when your certain part of your grid is going to fail, or when this expensive piece of equipment is not going to work anymore, when a wind turbine breaks before it breaks. We solved a case end of November last year where we won a big prize, and we predicted failures in wind turbines. One of the main reasons why wind energy is not being adopted so much is because it costs a lot in insurance policies, because nobody knows what will happen to these things. They break randomly, and they're not able to supply the energy. That makes the energy grid go down. It's an immense problem. And then we just, within 2 days, were able to reduce the entire cost of operating a wind farm by 15%. And that has an immense impact on the entire wind energy sector if you have something like that. So when we realized the potential, we thought, okay, we need to go all out. Go for this. So
you keep saying we. I know that probably it's you, Alex, and Silvio. How did you guys meet? How did you become a team?
And it's actually Alex, Silvio, and another person, Crystal. Crystal joined a bit later, but she's ever as important a part of the team, and also all the other guys, obviously. How do we meet? Actually, I was living in a student house 8 years ago, and I was really drunk, and I got a call from a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of mine, really long relationship, and she was studying in Portugal. I don't know why. I have never been there. And then she said that these two guys, they are going to study in Delft. Do you have a room for them? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then I hung up and I forgot about it. And then 3 months later, two of them showed up at our front door. I was like, who are you again? And like, hey, we're Silvio and Paolo. Can we stay at your house? You told our friend it was okay. Sure, fine. Here's a mattress. Stay there. And one of the guys was Silvio, and we ended up becoming. He was really pissed off, by the way, that I forgot about the whole thing. We ended up becoming friends. He ended up loving the Netherlands, staying there, doing a PhD. I was always fascinated by what he was doing, and at one point I saw that the field of AI was going to merge with the field of what he was doing, genetic optimization. And I told him, look, you can either start working at Siemens when you graduate, or we can start building something really cool. So make a choice. And then he made, thank God, the choice to join Jungle. And I knew Alex from rowing. And Alex is a genius person, and also can do so many things that I cannot do. And I knew he was a one-of-a-kind kind of person, so I definitely knew I wanted him on board. But actually, I was in the bar that I had set up with my friends, trying to convince a Singaporean investor to invest in research in this area, because it was going to become big back in 2014 when nothing really was happening. And they were like, yeah, what's going on? And then Alex overheard me, and he was making the choice between an honors program and something else maybe, and he heard what I was saying, and he had just worked on similar technology to predict how to stabilize an F-16 in the air when a wing breaks off. And I was like, okay, no idea that was possible as well, but please join, because I don't have the time. I was running the other company in the bar at the time, and I needed somebody to help me research this because I just didn't have the time. And that's how we joined, and that's how it became very solid.
Was Silvio who convinced you to move to Lisbon?
Maybe secretly. I will never understand this full plan, because I think he is so smart that he has the bigger picture in control.
Oh, God.
Well, I think he knew all along. No, but
we predicted.
Yeah, he did. So
he's in the right company.
That's why he's our CTO. We went to Lisbon to celebrate a case. I'd been going here on holiday every year, 5 times at least, because I love Portugal. So we went to Lisbon to celebrate because it's a nice place close by. And then all of a sudden, we started talking to some people that were working here, and we went past everybody in a couple of days, like from El Shish factory to Beta I to Startup Lisboa. And we spoke to a lot of people also at IST. And then we saw, whoa, there's really an amazing ecosystem that's about to explode. There's an amazing university with very dedicated people. There's some real talent here. And the weather is amazing, and a cup of coffee is like 50 cents. So what more is there to love? And then we make these decisions quite quickly. And then in January, we came back and we started to see, okay, let's see if we can recruit some people. In Holland, it took 6 months to get somebody on board that was of any quality. Here, we just cross-referenced a Kaggle competition with the student database and found two great guys who also had a network of people. And within no time, we had quite a few people that wanted to join the team. And then competitors of ours in the Netherlands were still struggling to get 1 or 2 people on board, and we had 108 applications for a summer internship. So we thought, why the hell do we have an office in the Netherlands? So one morning and a cup of coffee, we just decided, okay, in 10 minutes we canceled the rent of our office in Holland, and we booked a guy with a van to move all the stuff over to Portugal, and a week later we were here. So.
And you were just talking about the ecosystem. Do you think the ecosystem has room to grow, and how can it grow?
Yeah, there's a lot of room to grow. I was at the Lisbon Investment Summit, and they said there was a 6-fold increase in foreign direct investment in Lisbon. I think that everybody's just got to ramp up in professionalism as well. There's a huge amount of growth, and that brings a huge amount of responsibilities as well. So you can no longer start to do stuff like you're hustling every single day. Stuff needs to start getting planned. The support staff needs to start, knowing their roles properly. And for example, there's an incubator in the Netherlands, Yes Delft, and it's such a well-oiled machine. That also has its downfalls, by the way. But everybody just needs to recognize that they're sitting on top of a unique opportunity to turn Lisbon into something that doesn't exist. This is not like the second Berlin or the new Silicon Valley or any of that bullshit that you read in the news. This is really its own place. And the fact that some Dutchies are here is because there's a lot of similarities with the Dutch culture and attitude than it is here. Both of our countries were pioneers, wanted to explore the world, and really believe in this principle of first fighting for something before you earn it. So yeah.
you're here at Betty's buildings, and how come the community here help build that ecosystem and help you more, help the startups here more? What could we do more?
I don't think for us, you couldn't do any more. I mean, we have, there's lots of people from your team that always come over and ask us questions, introduce people. Everybody always takes us into account. Look, these guys are also there, let's introduce them. Rodrigo sitting over there has just been an amazing partner to us. For us, we couldn't be happier, really. But I think it's not so much as what you could do for us, but I think that, first of all, people need to know that this exists, right? And you only really see it when you're here. So in terms of outward communicating...
Any tips?
Yeah, well, I think you have to really be here to feel it, right? And it's already amazing in the winter months. Imagine what it's like in the spring months when the sun is shining and just walking around in a t-shirt. Last year, January, I sat at Caixa Sodré in a shirt discussing strategy. So it just brings a lot of happiness, this place. And that's a really important part to motivate a team, and quality of life is very high. But what you could do for us, I wouldn't know. But there's a lot you could do for entrepreneurship in general, for companies. Definitely focus, making choices on what sort of companies thrive here in Lisbon and which ones do not. The connections with the corporate ecosystem are also very important. Some of the guys are very, very advanced in this already. For example, EDP Ventures, really on top of their stuff. And there's so many other companies that could benefit from more integration with your community. We were at KPMG a while ago, and it seemed like they were far behind. They had no idea what was really going on. We don't blame them. It's because these bubbles of knowledge are very small still, even though they're blown up in the media. They're tiny. So information sharing and yeah, the government could also help making it a priority. It's going to be a driver of the economy, I think, for the next couple of years.
More than tourism?
I don't think ever more than tourism, because apart from everything that happens here, it's also a great place to chill out. But it could be one of the pillars, for sure. Yeah.
You were saying that you had 108 applications when you first started, but I know that you've been struggling to find a data scientist now.
Well, we have that typical moment now where we've exhausted the personal network and the personal network of our personal network and the personal network of that personal network. But for that reason, we pursued an investment. So we are getting a capital injection as we speak. Right now, that's what I'm working on. And that will allow us to really attract top talent from outside of Portugal as well to come to Portugal. And maybe some Portuguese that have left to seek fortune abroad but really miss their home and want to come back. We already saw one of our guys that works at our team, Andre, worked in the UK in Oxford. And we said, look, Andre, you'll be earning a little bit less here because it's Portugal, but you get to be in Portugal and have a great time. Okay, I'm coming, bye. So
easy to convince.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to convince people to live here. It's a fantastic place. So now recruitment is gonna be more and more a core activity. I think around about 20 to 30% of my time is definitely going to be spent on recruitment. Alex, the other co-founder, is also predominantly working on that. And our company doesn't have machines. Everything lives in the cloud, and we have laptops and a ping pong table. It's completely people. So that's everything we do. So that's what we focus on.
You know that originally that ping pong table was ours.
Yeah, it's still yours.
Technically, it's still ours.
You're more than welcome to come and play ping pong.
Do you use it?
A lot, yeah.
Okay, so we're glad you're using it. You were responsible, Jungle was responsible to bring Pi data to Portugal.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
Fantastic. Yeah, it's great to see every event being more and more busy, and it was completely embraced by Jungleai as well. I mean, from day one there was professional filming, and the whole event was organized, and there was food in there, and we were just blown away by. We said, guys, we want to do this. It's going to be huge. And then Jungleai said, okay, fine, then we do this. And there's no half measures. Like, it was full on from day one. We've had 3 now, and I mean, I can't wait to have the 4th, and it's going to get bigger. I mean, we're going to do the...
When is it, the 4th?
I think it's in February. Yeah, in February. Silvio takes care of this. But we get companies now presenting and other startups presenting, and it's really helping to bring community together. We talk to other AI companies in Lisbon, and I mean, it's going to grow, and we're going to turn it into a conference as well. And yeah, it's just great. It's fantastic.
What do you hope for the future for Jungle and for yourself?
For Jungle, I really want to keep the spirit that we have right now in the team. I think I set up a couple of companies, and it's always with fantastic people, and it's always been my prime focus. Just as long as you got great individuals, you can conquer anything. But we have a special culture, and I know we're going to grow a lot. This year, we're easily going to double in size, if not triple in size. But I just want to maintain that spirit that we have right now. So I know we're going to be successful because we are hardworking, good people, and that's all you need to do, really. Just go for it. Stay honest to yourself. So I have no doubt this team is going to be very successful. I just want to make sure that we treasure that culture. That's very important, and that we always stay humble. So that's my hope for Jungle, is that whatever things that we face this year, is that we stay humble. And for myself, I'm a bit of an altruist. I don't need that much. I just we have a lot more ambitions with the founding team and also some guys in Jungle. So we know that this is going to be something great, but there's going to be something great after that as well. So this is just a step on our path to what we call freedom. So it's not the American freedom, like freedom, but it's more the ability to really cause some change in different areas when you have capital behind you and the right amount of team and the right ecosystem. So we see it as a big Swiss Army knife, which we can do a whole lot more with than what we are doing now. So yeah, does that answer your question?
It does answer.
Good.
Thank you.